Good day and welcome to the first module on the introduction to solar PV module. At the end of this module, participants are expected to be able to explain the basis of electricity as they relate to photovoltaic module, appreciate the various applications of solar photovoltaic module, differentiate the different configurations of PV models, that is photovoltaic model. Now, before we begin, I would like to explain what photovoltaic module means. A photovoltaic module is a module that comprises of photovoltaic cells, and these cells absorb radiant energy from the sunlight and convert them into electrical energy. Now, the beauty of Nigerian solar energy system is that due to the Nigerian geographical location, latitude 3° north and 10° north, there is an abundance of sunlight all year. That is, all year round. Within a year, in all the 12 months in a year, you have abundant sunlight. It is estimated that Nigeria receives 2,000 kilowatt hour per year, which is more than enough to produce energy for the whole Nigerians across the entire country. It is more than enough for Nigerians to generate electricity. Now, depending on the different climate change in Nigeria, this radiant energy that has been absorbed varies. Now, in some climate regions like the Guinea Savannah, Kano, we have very high emission of these radiations on the surface of the earth, and so on and so on. If you begin to go to places like Sahel Savannah and Meduguri and Bauchi, there is high degree of sunlight. So there you expect to have very high radiation of solar energy. Now, these variations are being identified by what is called the peak sun hour. And the peak sun hour is basically that particular amount of solar source available in a particular location in the day. It has to do with the amount of, the amount of solar radiation that it's been absorbed or emitted in a particular location in a given day. So, in Nigeria, it is assumed that there is such peak sun hour of over 5 hours, the maximum of 5 hours, and it generates almost 1 kilowatt per area. So in the total we have 5 kilowatt per area. If we were to multiply number of hours times the number of wattage that we get from such radiations at those particular locations based on the climate regions. Now, this solar energy that is being harnessed to generate electricity is a result of the use of solar panels that convert the sunlight radiations into electricity via the photovoltaic principle. Now, I wouldn't want to go much into the details of what the principles are, but in a nutshell, this is just basically how this electricity is being generated from the solar energy, just for you to have an understanding of how it's been done. Now, that is just by the way. Now, however, these radiations are being emitted to the solar panels in different forms. Now, there could be a direct radiation to the solar panel. That is, these radiations are not being blocked by any form of, by any object, by cloud or anything. They come directly to the solar panels. Now, another type of radiation will be the reflected radiation. Now, this radiation reaches the Earth's surface after reflection to an object. That is, it must hit an object and then it reflects to the solar panel. And diffused radiation. The diffused radiation reaches the Earth maybe as a result of it being scattered by those gases that man emits to the air. Those uh, gases such as nitrogen, oxygen, and so on. So the total global radiation is a sum of actually these three major radiations, and each of them has the impact it actually has on the pixel hour, or on the amount of energy that is being absorbed by the solar panels. So some key terms that we're going to be discussing, some key terms that are going to help you in better understanding the field of solar installation. Now, one of them is the solar power, which is known as the radiancy. And the solar radiation is power, and the unit of measuring power is watt. Now, what I mean is, solar radiation here simply means power, measured in kilowatt per area or watt per area. Now, on a cloudy free day in the northern Nigeria, the solar irradiance or solar power can reach up to a value of 1 kilowatt per area, and in some locations on the globe, they could reach about 1.3 kilowatt per area. Now, another important term is the solar irradiation. Now, the solar irradiation is the cumulative of solar energy that has been emitted within a given surface in a given time. It is a time factor. Now, it's not talking about just the whole area. Now, it's talking about a specific time. Now, it could be a day, it could be a month, it could be a year. So that particular amount of solar energy that you can absorb, that you can record within that location in a given year, a given month, a given day, is what is known as solar irradiation. However, it is measured in a matter of a day. So you have it from a day, then you could maybe calculate further for a month or a year. One other very important aspect of the PV system is the PV system configuration. Now, solar photovoltaic systems are designed in either of the following configuration. One is the grid connected solar system configuration. Now, this configuration basically has to do, or is more of like a backup system for already existing grids that are connected, or power plants. Say, for example, or hydropower supply grid, where we have this constant supply of electricity, and then we want to maybe boost its capacity beyond what we have. So we connect this solar system, are directly connected to the national grid, so that we can boost the demand for power in generating the electricity. There are two possible forms of this grid connected system, which is the system connected directly to the national grid. As you can see this block diagram below, you find out that you have a PV generator, which is actually our solar panels, which has been directly connected to an inverter and is also connected to a grid line. So then the final AC consumers, at the end of the day, we'll look at what inverters are and what PV generators are as we go further. And the other type of grid connected system is a grid backup system. Like I said earlier, that they serve as backup sometimes. So this is an example of a block diagram of what it looks like when they serve as when solar PV module installations serve as backup for a grid system. Now you have it there. Of course, you have your PV generator, your charge controller, your battery. Now the batteries are what serve as the backup system here. They store the charges that has been generated from this PV generators, and they have been stored in this battery, then converted to AC through the inverter and are being connected to the national grid than the final consumer. Another important system configuration is the off-grid solar system configuration, which comprises of different types. One of which is the off-grid system without battery storage and DC load. It means you have your PV generators, which are actually DC generators. They provide DC, and then you have a DC converter who converts a DC that is being generated to a DC load. Now, why the need to convert DC to DC? It could be that you have devices that actually run on DC, but then the amount of voltage that's being generated from the solar panels, from the solar radiation, is too much for these devices. So you then convert it to a more lesser voltage or a more lesser power that they can withstand, that your devices can withstand. So we have this connection. Another connection is the off-grid system with battery storage and DC load as well. What it means is you have a battery that helps you as a form of backup. Now, this is typically at night, for example, say when there are no much solar radiation and the batteries are being charged. So you then use whatever useful life there is in the battery during those hours of the night. So that's what the backup simply means. Now, this is the kind of configuration that we will be looking at in the course of our tutorial, because the first one discussed, that is the grid connected system, if you notice, they are being connections to the national grid, and those are mostly government contracts, like those who do that connections. Only the government has the capacity to do those installations. So we are going to be looking at off-grid solar installations fully. These are basically installing solar systems in residential homes. If you want to install solar systems in a residential home, these are the basic configurations that you should put at the back of your mind and hold them to your heart firmly. So another type, which is the third type, is the off-grid system with AC load. Now this is the major one. Now this is the major and the most popular configuration, off-grid configuration you find virtually in all residential homes, because this is what we need. Our loads, our appliances in our homes are virtually AC. All of them are AC, if not for the recent development in technology where we find out that we have DC fans now, and DC TVs, and televisions, and even bulbs. But before now, we have only AC loads. So even today, you find out that most of the appliances in our homes are AC based loads, actually. So we will be focusing more on this particular third type of off-grid system with AC load. Now, if you look at it in the block diagram, you have a PV generator, a charge controller to control the charge that actually flows to the battery, and then you have a DC bus line. Now, a DC bus line is then connected to an inverter which converted the DC to AC, and then finally convert and supplied to our AC loads. Now, there is a fourth type, which is off-grid system with both AC and DC. Now, this is also a very common type. It's also a very common type. Since, like I said earlier, there's been an increase in technology whereby we have DC loads now. So we could just connect directly, just like you have the first configuration where you have virtually just only DC. You generating DC and connecting into DC loads. So you could actually connect some DC loads directly to your PV generators and supply DC loads. And those who require AC load, you connect an inverter and generate AC and generate power for the AC loads. So if you look at it, so it's more of like, I wouldn't want to call it a hybrid, because we have another type of system configuration, which is the last configuration, is the hybrid system. So the hybrid system, it's when you have like more of like a backup system. You have your conventional connections of a DC to DC load connection, and then you have maybe a backup generator, mostly backup generators, where you connect it to the system and that generator serves as a backup for you. So whenever the AC is down, the DC part, whenever the batteries are down, and your generator automatically picks up. So it's more of like you are, and since generators provide AC, there is a need for a rectifier. Rectifier converts the DC to AC, unlike the inverter that does DC to AC. So the rectifier converts AC to DC. Now we all know the generator actually supplies AC power, AC. So then the rectifiers will convert it to a DC. Now looking at these configuration, you find out that it's more of like a two-way generation now. Like the PV generators are actually generating the electricity in DC form, and the generator, the backup generator, is also generating electricity in AC form. Now they now and thereby rectified and then rectified to a DC, then supplied to the respective loads, whether an AC load or a DC load, depending on whatever the load supply would be. However, these configurations are just so to help you to understand different ways in which you can have a solar PV system installed, basically. So you should have the image of this configuration at the back of your mind when you go into installations. However, the last but not the least of what I would like to discuss is the applications of these solar systems. We know a few of them, and we've seen a few of them in our day-to-day life activities, such as our street lights, our traffic lights, in mini grids in remote areas where they're not connected to the national grid, but they are being powered. Their form of electricity within that locality is solar system. The government provides a mini solar system for them that powers maybe a few houses, just say 10 to 20 houses within that location. These are basically a few I would like to discuss. You could actually look out more of these applications of solar PV modules. This brings us to the end of this module. Please do not forget to hit the subscription button, and thank you for watching. See you next time.